again. Good day, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's DVT Insight session. These Insight sessions are really presented with the intention of connecting our clients and others in the community to some of the thought leaders in the space around current technology and the capabilities in that technology and how you might apply that in your business context to either enabling your digital transformation or furthering the progression of the organization or just completing better, making use of what's possible these days with the technology. I'm really pleased to have Stephen Morrell with us today. Stephen is the CEO of an AI-led company. Well, not led, that's the wrong thing to say. A leading AI company that essentially is doing some amazing things in the space. Stephen, absolute pleasure to have you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Karl. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's a pleasure to speak in front of so many respectable people. As I said earlier, I was having a look through the guest list, through the registered. And yeah, there were a lot of interesting, competent like software engineers, CIOs, product managers, product leaders from all sorts of very interesting companies. We hope that this is going to be a useful talk for you. We've tried to make it as relevant as we can, but also bringing in some of the interesting ideas that are developing because it's a really exciting space.
I'm really expecting some potentially insightful questions themselves from the audience today. And just on that, for anybody that does have a question through the duration of the talk, please just raise that in the Q&A function or through the chat function. I will pick those up from those sections, moderate those, and then provide those back to Stephen during the course of the talk. Stephen is here really to shed some insight on a bit of a playbook around how we might use generative AI successfully in business. But before we get to that, maybe it's fair just to let Stephen give you a brief introduction on himself and even Electra, the organization that he leads. Stephen, how about sharing a little bit of that with our audience?
Great, thanks, Karl. I'm CEO of Electra, which is an artificial intelligence company, and we have been working in the medical artificial intelligence space for just under 10 years. So our initial product was a breast cancer alleviating product, helping radiologists to read X-rays better. We've actually pivoted away from our initial product to a slightly different product, which helps mammographers read two images and relate the tissue between those two images better, which is it's a key risk. That's in the space of medical vision AI. But we've also been quite interested in the possibilities of generative AI, and there's a lot of commonality between those in our particular segment. It all relates to saving lives, catching cancer earlier, dealing with the same kind of people. But the underlying models are all fairly similar and they behave in kind of similar ways. They need to be modeled, calibrated. You need to manage the life cycle of the model. You need to understand what's going on underneath the hood. So there's a lot of commonality between that and incidentally also between my previous career, which was in banking, where I spent a lot of time working with financial models. And those have got a lot in common, once again, with the AI models of today. So yeah, that brings us up to speed. We've done a few interesting kind of benchmarking exercises throughout our life. So we participated in something called the Dreams Mammography Challenge a few years ago, where it was a worldwide competition with about 1,000 participants. And everybody tried to detect cancers best in breast X-rays. It's a huge problem. There was a lot of money behind this. We developed a model which was the best performing single model in that competition. We were the highest performing startup in another competition called DVT. We built a model which outperformed Google Health DeepMind when they put together a cancer detection model. We had about half the number of errors that they did. So kind of that's our background. We have some skills in this area, and I'm fortunate enough to work at the London AI Centre, which is about 100 professionals all working on various aspects of biomedical artificial intelligence.
And that's exactly the reason why we've got to know Stephen fairly well from a DVT point of view and are working with them closely. It's a case of there's a lot of hype out there in the world around things like generative AI and even AI in general. And fortunately, Stephen and the company come with a very practical approach, looking at it from a business perspective and going, what is the realistic use of this? Where is there value to be gained? And how do you actually deliver on that? But Stephen, perhaps I'm going to come back to that first aspect and kind of go, in my own opinion, there's an extraordinary amount of hype about generative AI. and very little focus on the people aspect and sometimes the practical use and where this can actually deliver value for business leaders and those that are looking at adopting it as a technology tool within the organization, which seems to be just about everybody these days. So to that first question, perhaps, hype or reality, where do you stand on that?